Hello and welcome to my talk, Advocacy and Me. In this talk, I tell you about my journey into advocating for accessibility and how I could grow while on this road. But at first, let me tell you who I am. My name is Melanie, but I prefer the short version, Melly. My pronouns are she, her. Some of you may know my foot and the tattoo on it, which went a little viral on Twitter back in 2019. The tattoo is a cute comic version of the Xbox Adaptive Controller. I'm also a housemate to two fluffy Maine Coon cats, and I love musical theater and, of course, games. At my main job, I'm working in the field of human resources. The company I work for organizes personal assistance for disabled people, and my tasks range from preparing contracts for new employees to writing working schedules. In my free time and when I'm not at the theater or playing a game, I like to tweet or write about accessibility and inclusion with a focus on gaming, but not exclusively. As I'm from Germany, my texts are mainly in German language. Sorry. When I was a little over a year old, I got diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy, as it may affect the strength of the muscles and progressively weakens them. Although we didn't have the internet at that time, my parents tried to catch all the information on SMA they could get. They knew that sooner or later my hands would get so weak that it wouldn't be possible to write with a pen. So it was very important for them to introduce me to computers and technology early in my childhood. I had just started school as a 6-year-old when we got our first computer. 1 or 2 years later, the Super Nintendo moved in, and I had a lot of fun playing with my cousins and friends. I also saved some money to get myself a Game Boy. But then, a few years later, the next generation of consoles and games arrived, with the games shifting to 3D worlds and the controllers getting bigger. Console gaming didn't work for me anymore. I tried to switch to computer gaming, but there were two problems. It was already hard for me to use a keyboard, and I don't like gaming on a computer. It doesn't feel the same for me. As the years went by, I completely lost the ability to use a keyboard. So the only games left for me were the ones playable with mouse only. I got bored soon and didn't play a lot for a long time. When I tell you I didn't play games for a long time, I mean for about 15 years. I didn't lose interest in gaming. I just couldn't find games meeting my needs. Through friends who had a PlayStation 3 and later a PlayStation 4, I could sometimes play as a backseat gamer. That way I could, for example, watch the beautiful game Journey or go on adventure with Nathan Drake. Thanks to the companion app, I could even play Beyond Two Souls together with a friend using my smartphone to control the entity. This was the nearest I could get playing, and it was cool, but it wasn't enough. So one day early in 2017, I checked the internet about the state of game accessibility. And, well, in 2017, I didn't get a lot of helpful results. Except from this. On YouTube, I found a panel discussion from the PlayStation Experience 2016 about accessibility in Uncharted 4. You see some familiar faces and the famous hoodie there, right? For those of you who don't see the screenshot, There are Ian and Isudi, Mark Barley from Able Gamers, Tara, Josh Straub from Daggers, and Alex Nienecki from Naughty Dog. This video was important for everything. It actually blew my mind that there were people listening to disabled players, and not only listening, but actively doing things. Watching this video changed the way I looked at games and game development. I suddenly felt seen and recognized, and I knew there were chances for me to play again. So, of course, I needed to try Uncharted 4. I was lucky. A friend lent me his PS4 and the game, and I could play. Yes, not everything worked well for me, but I was able to play the game from start to finish, all on my own. Was it exhausting at times? Yes. Was I happy playing? Hell yes. After this experience, I got my own PS4 and tried different games. For some, I had to become very inventive to find my way around barriers. Others didn't work at all, and a few were very easily playable. As I knew now that there were people out there listening to disabled players, I started to share some of my experiences on social media and on my blog. I had just a few followers back then and didn't reach much further than to my family and friends. But that didn't matter to me. I liked to show which games worked for me and which didn't, and why. A few months after I rediscovered gaming for me, Microsoft announced the Xbox Adaptive Controller. It sounded really interesting to me, and I was curious. I asked Xbox Germany if it's possible to test the controller somewhere. I suggested visiting one of their offices in Germany or coming to the Gamescom. The answer I got was a completely new Xbox One S and the adaptive controller, which I could both test to my heart's content. The Xbox Adaptive Controller was a game changer for me, and not only with playing games. I pitched a review to a German games magazine, which got published, and suddenly people wanted to hear about my experience with the controller and with games in general. I was invited to radio interviews, podcasts, and even television. While doing my first steps in the public, I found some disabled advocates and experts on Twitter. Yes, this is my contribution to the Cherry Thompson drinking game. I learned a lot from Cherry's tweets and streams. I learned about the GA-Conf, reading, listening, and chatting with all these people passionate about accessibility and inclusion in games was so empowering. I felt that I wanted to be active about these topics as well. Empowered by the impact other advocates have for accessibility in games, I searched for opportunities where I could advocate in Germany. I found a university in Cologne, which is not far from where I live, where they teach digital games game design. I asked if they would be interested in me visiting one of the courses and talk about my experience as a disabled player. They were, and I was invited as a one-time guest lecturer and got full 2 hours to talk about accessibility, representation, and inclusion. I hadn't talked in front of people since I left university, and I didn't like presentations at all. So I was very nervous. But I knew giving future game developers an insight in my experiences and to teach them about disabilities and misconceptions was a huge opportunity for accessibility in upcoming games. After the successful first presentation, I pitched a session for the Gamescom Congress and got accepted. I kept writing about accessibility-related topics for the magazine I wrote the Xbox Adaptive Controller review for, and also for other outlets. Gradually, everything became a kind of self-propelling process. One thing led to another, and it always went on somewhere. As I said, I never liked presentations, and suddenly I was presenting or part of a panel discussion on a more or less regular basis. Slowly I got practice at it and learned how presenting became easier for me. With each presentation, I gained confidence and lost more and more nervousness. I'm not ashamed of my disability in any way, but when I started presenting, I felt uncomfortable when I got out of breath mid-sentence, or when I had to tilt back my wheelchair in a presentation to make speaking easier and less exhausting for me. Through educating, I could not only pass on knowledge about accessibility and inclusion, but it also made me grow and better accept myself. It's thanks to all the great disabled advocates out there that I started this journey, and a lot of what I learned on this way, I learned from all of you. I wouldn't know as much about accessibility and inclusion in games as I do now, and I wouldn't be who I am today. Thank you all for the work you did, and for all the work we will do.